This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. Today I'm speaking with an old school friend, an old high school friend, Ms. Laura Millar, who is joining us from London, UK. And Laura Millar is the travel and food editor for the UK Metro. How are you today, my old friend?
Oh, well, every day is like Sunday, quite literally, as
Yes.
our good friend Morrissey once sang. Yeah, the days are kind of blurring into one. Nothing distinguishes them much, but we're surviving slowly. Sorry,
Now,
not thriving, surviving.
for those people unfamiliar with the lockdown procedures in the UK, what's going on?
I think they were maybe a bit more vague than they were throughout the rest of Europe, certainly, and I don't know how they compare with Canada's. We've been told to stay at home and only go out if necessary for food, exercise, or for essential work that you can't do at home. I'm used to working from home anyway, as a journalist, and have been for many years. So that's no change for me. The only difference is I would normally be in a different country every week,
Yes,
and I'm
traveling.
not.
Of course. Do you miss that?
Oh, very much. But
Kind of
my
much.
heart goes out to everybody who can't be where they want to be, especially if it's with parents, grandparents, children, everything.
Right. And what kind of confidence do you have in your government's management of this pandemic? Be honest.
Oh, so little, Jamie, so little. We've mismanaged things so badly. You know, we had so much time to get ahead of the situation. Things were ignored, things were missed, things were, I don't know, they just, the focus wasn't there. They dropped the ball on so many things. The lockdown came, I think, way too late. They've not protected elderly people in care homes, which we find out now is where the majority of, well, quite a lot of deaths are
Yes.
happening. So I don't, yeah, compared with many other countries, possibly including Canada, we're not covering ourselves in glory at all, sadly.
And you still have family up in Scotland. How have things differed up in Scotland?
But I think the main difference I've heard is that the First Minister is being a bit more honest, a bit more transparent,
All
a
right.
bit more clear in her messages. Um, Whatever you might think of her and her aims, ultimately, I think she's not treating the public like children. She's not treating them like idiots. She's just being as honest and open about the situation as she can be, which I think people respect, regardless of what they think of her politics.
Now, I think one of the questions that constantly goes around in my mind is how the restaurant industry, how the restaurant sector, the hospitality sector, shall we say, is ever going to recover from this current situation. What are your thoughts on that? And then we'll move on to the travel side of things.
Sure. Well, restaurants are a big part of my life. I go out to them often when I'm at home in London. I obviously go to them when I'm away. And I know how tight margins are for people. I know how difficult it is to make a living from having and running a restaurant. I've always known that. This is just devastating for many who've worked solidly for years to make something happen and bring a good restaurant to a neighborhood.
Yes.
As far as I understand it, I don't know if this is global, but I think the kind of advice that has been given from governments is if you do want to reopen a restaurant, you have to make sure that there's people and tables are going to be at least 2 meters away from each other. How a waiter is going to be able to serve you if they have to get closer. How are you going to make money, which is hard enough to make a profit as it is, if your restaurant is only half full? And there's the other question of the whole theatre of going out for a meal. You know, it's a time for celebration. It's an enjoyment. It's being amongst other people. You get that buzz from being, okay, sometimes tightly, wedged in next to two other tables. You talk louder, they talk louder. That adds the atmosphere. You kind of have big tables of friends for a celebration. That's part of the reason of going out of your house, because it's something that you can't get at home. It's that ambience, just as much as the food that you're experiencing and the chef and whoever's behind it. So I personally would not enjoy going to a restaurant that was half empty, felt soulless, where I was served by a man in a mask. You know, what are we going to do? Drop our masks to take mouthfuls? I mean,
Yes.
I've seen mock-ups of, and this is weird, I've seen mock-ups of tables for two with a plexiglass screen.
Really?
The plexiglass screen is between the diners, the table of two. Rather, you'd think that this plexiglass screen would be on either side of the table to protect you from the other tables, not your companion. Surely if you're going for a meal with your companion, you already know their germ situation. So I don't know, a lot of things are being speculated that sound a bit far-fetched.
I mean, why would people want to go to a restaurant if it was going to be like that? Because I think people are going to have a completely different idea of what it is to be in close proximity with other human beings after all of this begins to, well, all of this begins to hopefully wind down. And to be quite honest, I mean, you're also probably going to be paying about 3 times as much, because if that square footage or square meterage within the restaurant is not used in the manner it is before the pandemic, then the prices will have to go through the roof to actually make it a viable business, right?
I think absolutely right. You know, I think that a lot of people in restaurants here, especially in London, are trying to make the best of a bad situation. They're offering delivery services of their dishes, they're offering takeaway services, that kind of thing. And, you know, I've done it. I've ordered a couple of times from restaurants that I know, just to ring the changes from cooking all the time. And that's fine, that's great. And, you know, hopefully that's served as a bit of a lifeline to some of these places.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I can't see them breaking even if they've lost half their space and capacity. I don't think that'd be possible. And I just think it was very badly. If I was a restaurant, if I owned a restaurant, I don't think I'd want to open up again if I could keep the premises, you know, for 6 months. What's the point? Just cut your losses for a bit and, you know, just try and see how we get farther down the line, all the rest of it, with getting, I don't know, back to normality, which I think is a way off. But it's desperately sad. It's such a glorious industry, and it's one. I think you've worked as a server yourself, Jamie, as have I in our student days. You know, it can be a lot of good fun, colleagues and everything. It's just such a shame.
Not meaning to be a doomsayer or anything, but perhaps we've been living in this golden age and we never realized what we had until we lost it. Because, I mean, I cannot, looking at the future, I don't know how restaurants are going to be able to exist in the manner that we were used to them existing.
Well, things might have to change in terms of layouts, setups. I think I read that, I think it's Vilnius in Lithuania is going to transform one of its public squares into an open air cafe, so that any restaurant that's around that square, their tables will just be scattered in the middle, so that you will get the social distancing without having to be in a small restaurant, but the waiters can still come out and serve you, and hopefully that makes a difference. But then again, still, you're in a big open space 2 meters away from the table next to you.
And that's not going to work. That's going to be weather permitting as well, right? So. Well,
I mean, yeah, exactly. So Britain doesn't stand much of a chance for al fresco dining. It never has. I'm not sure about the north of Canada either. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Who knows what everybody's talking about? You know, how can this change? How can things change in the future? It will need a lot of I don't know, forward thinking outside the box. Yeah, it's one to ponder for sure for restaurateurs.
Now, the travel sector is something that's very close to your heart also, and you know, with British Airways laying off 12,000 staff, about a quarter of their staff yesterday, that doesn't bode well for the airline sector as a whole. How on earth do you see that coming back from where we're at now?
Well, one of the things I kind of said, like you've had many thoughts since the early days of this. I kind of thought, okay, can everybody just press the pause button for 6 months, don't have any flights unless they're absolutely necessary. Don't open anything unless it's absolutely necessary. Let's hunker down, lick our wounds, see where we are when we emerge, slowly blinking into the sunlight after the majority of this awful situation is over. There's obviously airlines who've asked if they can get government bailouts.
Yeah.
In some cases, that might be viable. In some cases, it might be politic. There are probably characters like Richard Branson and Stelios, who possibly have concentrated too much on dividends rather than kind of maybe fairness in treating not only staff but customers who might not deserve it as much. Norwegian Airlines have just basically decided to ground all their fleet till 2021, and I think that is the right thing to do. Just accept this year is, there's no point, it's over. If they can survive until 2021, then that's great. But what, like you've said, with restaurants that might have to increase their prices, I do think airlines will have to do the same. Like if there's only, say, where there were maybe 5 British airlines, maybe now we're down to 3. Where there were, I don't know, 6 Canadian airlines, you might be down to 4. You know, there's either that fewer people are going to go away anyway because they can't afford it if they've lost their jobs or have, you know, significantly less money. Or the airlines are going to have to, like restaurants, find a way of staggering, you know, seating passengers, that kind of thing, because of social distancing. And if you don't have a full airline, I think they only make a profit if the cabin is full every time. So there's going to be a hit there as well. I don't know how you'd feel if you had to pay double for your flights back to Scotland. Obviously, you'd still do it because your family's there too, but it would make it a less regular thing. Now we have been lucky. You mentioned the phrase golden age. We have been so lucky. We in Europe can fly to Venice for $30, you know, for a weekend. It's been amazing, but I think we're paying a different price now.
We don't actually have budget airlines per se in Canada or access to them. But I think those days of those budget airlines may be over, because that fellow from Ryanair was saying the other day that he would never go along with the social distancing on his planes, and I think he said he would rather go bust.
I think he did. Yeah, he's quite loud spoken anyway, and I mean that's up to him, isn't it? But you know, the customer votes with their wallet. Yeah. If they see a risk on an airline that's not going to take precautions in terms of sanitation or distancing, they'll just go somewhere else. I just think I know that everyone around the world is desperate to go somewhere, to get anywhere, to see family, to see friends. I just think that's not going to happen for a long time. I just think you there's no way. I mean, never mind if you like suddenly find out that your country is open for business. That's fine if between Canada you can go anywhere you want. But what if Canada says to the UK, yeah, we'd rather you didn't come because you know you've handled the situation so badly. We'd rather let anyone in from the rest of Europe before you guys. So it's not our decision to make almost as to where we go. We have to depend on what other countries say. I do think in a good way that train and car travel will probably increase after this. You know, I've been very worried about my carbon footprint over the years, of course. And therefore to have this little rest from carbon emissions and pollution is not a bad thing at all. And I think Greta Thunberg must be quite pleased, not at what's happening, but at the fact that the climate has kind of had the chance to recover a little bit within all this, you know. And I would agree. I think it's a good thing. I think we should be flying less. So maybe it'll become a preserve of wealthier people like it used to be.
Yes, yeah, that could very possibly be the case. One last question. How would you say all of this has impacted you personally when it comes to shopping, cooking? Because you're a dab hand in the kitchen, or so I've heard, or so a certain television series told me. What was it you were in? Come Dine?
My mom's French, so I was in, sadly, that was the show I wanted to be on, was Come Dine With Me, but apparently I wasn't eccentric enough. So the show I was on was called Dinner Dates, where you had to cook for a prospective suitor. And though he loved my food, he did not love me. So, you know,
too bad.
Them's breaks. But yes, cooking. I mean, I've always enjoyed it. I just haven't had the time very often. When I'm at home in London, I'm often out at one of said amazing restaurants that I enjoy. And then when I'm away, obviously I'm eating elsewhere. But I do enjoy cooking. I enjoy the kind of zen of it, the chopping of things, the stirring, the smells of garlic and chili and everything. So, you know, that's been a pleasure, even though I'm just cooking for myself because I live on my own. It's been nice to kind of have that goal every evening before you sit down with some Netflix to delineate the next 24 hours of the day, Groundhog Day. I imagine you're doing the same. Yeah,
very much so. Do you have a fully stocked pantry, or do you have to go out every week or every few days to get food?
Well, the basics, lots of seasonings I've got in the cupboard. I would go out once a week for like fresh vegetables and stuff like that. I don't eat as much meat as I used to, which I'm happy about. So I'm being Scottish, half Scottish, you know, there's a lot of smoked salmon in my fridge. I'm not even joking. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of fresh vegetables and cooked from scratch every day, and trying to keep healthy.
Yeah, I'm definitely putting on something down here. I think it's from the wine and beer.
It's the COVID 19 pounds.
Oh, I need I need to get out on my bike a little bit more. Laura, thank you so much for joining us at Good Food Revolution. It's been great to catch up with you again, and perhaps we'll catch up in a couple of months and see where we're at.
We will. Good luck to everyone out there, and lovely to chat, Jamie.
Brilliant. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.